Hello and welcome back to another episode of CharlaFootball. I'm your host as always, Jerry, and Tomas, of course, right next to me. Tomas, we just got finished watching the knockout stages in the Euros, Germany versus Denmark, and then we saw Italy versus Switzerland. Two grand matches, honestly. This is why I love the Euros. You see the best football played, probably the best football in the world being played right now. But we have some shockers. But before we get into that, how you doing? I know we recorded earlier today. Just want to check up on you. How's your day been so far?
Yeah, it's been good. I had to make a quick trip to Long Beach, but made it back just in time to start this pod.
Perfect, bro. Perfect. Well, I know both of us were watching the games. There was a lot to talk about, so I think we should just get right into it. Make sure to follow Charla Football at CHARLA Football. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. Make sure to listen to our podcast on Spotify, on YouTube. Check it out. Check out the website as well. And support your small creators because together we'll make it big. But let's first start with the surprise of the day. The first game between Italy and Switzerland. What are your feelings there? What are your thoughts there, bro? Because I was at a loss for words. Even though I did kind of predict it right before the game started, knowing how strong the Swiss team have been throughout the tournament and how no, I don't want to say frail that Italy have been, but they just haven't been at their peak, basically. And I think the Swiss completely just exposed them in every single way that possible. So, what are your thoughts behind that first game?
It's for the hope I had with this Italy team since they were the reigning champions of the past Euros.
Yeah.
I really expected them to advance, not advance, clearly, but advance on penalties because I know the strength of the Swiss team.
Hmm.
And it's just super surprising to go out in the fashion that they did because they did. Because what do we know Italy for being a strong defensive side? They weren't even that today. I didn't expect them to win, 1-0, 2-0. Like I said, I expected to go to penalty since they're a strong defensive side. And both teams defend very solid.
Hmm.
I I didn't expect the 2-0 result from Switzerland at all.
I mean, looking line by line, you would say that this team is pretty even. I wouldn't say that the Swiss are a lot better than Italy or that Italy's a lot better than the Swiss.
Yeah.
It's on paper, it was set up for a perfect matchup, and it was a good matchup. But at the end of the day, Switzerland completely dominated, and what shocked me the most. And I was thinking about this just right before, no, right after the game ended. I was like, oh shit! Once again, Switzerland knocking out a reigning champ because they knocked out the French in 2020 when they had just won the Euro in 2016, I believe. And then they did the same thing over here, knocking out the Italians when they just won the Euro in 2020, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it to me, it's just crazy how history pretty much repeats itself, and how the Swiss are behind the history repeating itself. But once again, utterly dominant performance from the Swiss. You can't take anything away from them. They've been almost perfect this whole tournament, and I don't think a lot of people had them going in. Maybe not even as an underdog. They were just kind of sneaking in there. You know how Switzerland are. They're always just kind of quiet, not making a lot of noise, but they end up always doing some damage in major tournaments. And once again, we just saw it.
Yeah, they have a solid squad. They're really balanced. There's not a line that is stronger than there's not a line that's crazy stronger than the other.
Hmm.
Because defensively they're actually pretty solid in
I mean,
terms
yeah,
of
you got Kanji at the back, Ricardo Rodriguez, and then Fabian Schär at right center back because they play three at the back.
yeah.
They have a
So
solid
it's
defensive line.
yeah. I think that's their best line, maybe in terms of names,
Hmm.
but overall as a team, they're solid every single line, and Italy kind of lacks that. I know. I think his name is Cagliafiori. He's
Hmm.
already he's still young. These defenders are still, if not young, they haven't reached their prime yet. So coming off of Chiellini and Bonucci, obviously there
It's a
was
major transition.
it was a major transition. And with that being said, I still expected them to do better. But
Yeah, I
obviously,
completely agree. You still have some experience throughout the team when you're looking at the likes of Federico Chiesa, Jorginho off of the bench. I don't know why he didn't start, but that's a different conversation. Um, Donnarumma at goalkeeper. I mean, you have players that have have seen have been through the national team for quite some time,
Have won a
and just
Euro.
have even you're completely correct. They have won a Euro. They've been there. They were there, but I don't know what happened. I don't think they expected the Swiss to come out as strong as they did, because I don't even remember the one chance. I mean,
The
Italy probably
post.
only had that one chance. That's it. They're just off the post. That's it. Other than that, they just completely neutralized them in attack and exposed them defensively. It was a masterclass from the Swiss, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's not one line that I could say played bad today. They all showed out for their country today.
I completely agree. Now, I think I forgot who they're gonna get in the next matchup, if or who it's gonna be between, but I will take a look at that just in a bit. But that was the first surprise of the day. Now, I thought there was gonna be another surprise in that Germany versus Denmark game, and mainly because Denmark had gotten the first goal, but it was called offside, which we're going to discuss that right now. I don't think something so minuscule like that should be considered an offside. I think that was very harsh. And I know right when that happened, I texted you too. I was like, nah, Germany, nah. Denmark just got screwed over.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's like, and I feel for Switzerland because I mean, not Switzerland, sorry.
Denmark,
And I feel for Denmark because it feels like every time they play a big country, I know this has to feel for all the smaller countries in Europe in terms of football, but it feels like every time they play a bigger country, all those um how would I say, like 50-50 calls that could go either way. It's like they go against these smaller nations, and it happens all the time. Like that
and
offside is never an offside for me, in my
even
opinion.
though,
And before
um,
VAR, these offsides were never called offsides because it's so minuscule.
yeah,
Now that it's not
well,
that well, now that it's up to like a computer,
yeah,
it's like yes, he's off, but what advantage is that? He's in the middle of two center backs, two huge center backs that are like straight on him, and he still somehow gets a shot up, and obviously it goes in off of a rebound. But it's so sad to see because I would much rather have Denmark going up 1-0 and then Germany coming back by two, later on
it
somehow.
would have made it a lot more dramatic. And I
More
completely
dramatic.
agree. It would have made the game a lot more fun to watch, definitely.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no denying that Germany have a solid squad. We know that they're the favorites to win the tournament. They're the host nation. They have probably the best midfield of all of the Euros. But overall, they just look like such a solid team. I don't think there's a line that lacks, just like a few other teams in the tournament. But they have that home field advantage. But on the day, I think they weren't as impressive. Definitely, I think maybe if they took all their chances, because they had at least two or three more chances to score, and they looked just a little forgiving, especially Havertz. For whatever reason, Julian Nagelsmann still decides to play him on top, even though he has a killer in Niklas Füllkrug. But Havertz, for whatever reason, gets a start. I like him as a player because he is a type of player you can associate yourself with if you're a midfielder or a winger, because he can
Technically
hold on
gifted
to
as
the
well.
ball. Yeah, he's very gifted. There's no lie. There's no denying that. But when it comes to being in front of the goal, he's very inconsistent,
Yeah.
a meme oftentimes. But I mean, we saw that today. I mean, there was that one chance in the second half, I believe, where
Yeah.
he had a beautiful touch with, um, I think the ball's kind of like behind him. He brings it in front of him and has like a 20-yard sprint with the ball, and he just tries to chip over the keeper and just misses. It's those little
Yeah.
things that separate him from being a good player to a world class striker.
Yeah. And I mean, it just comes down to a proper finishing training because at the end of the day, these misses are, how would I say, lack of concentration or nervousness. And both of those things have cures, either seeing a therapist or training better. And I mean, you can't ask a lot more from him because he's so technically gifted and he creates you these opportunities that I mean, how many forwards would have tried to receive the ball, behind them and just gotten stuck right there and try to play through it. He receives the ball behind them and creates that chance for himself, which is why I will say that it's valid that he missed it because he didn't miss a city that somebody else set him up. He created that chance by himself, and yes, he squandered it. But I mean, there's very few players that will create that chance for themselves.
I get what you're trying to say there. It was kind of funny because when I saw him taking the pen, I thought Schmeichel was just gonna get a
Mm.
hand to that because Schmeichel was like inches away from touching that ball, but he placed that perfectly into Schmeichel's left hand side or right hand side when watching the game. But I can see why Nagelsmann just like I can argue for both sides, but I see why he would want to keep him in the starting lineup. He does bring something else than Nicholas Fulkrug probably can, but maybe preferably for me, I'm more of a fan of like I want to say big number nines, but just those number nines that will kill you basically. And I think Nicholas Fulkrug is that. But
Yeah,
overall, I mean, moving into the next round, I think Germany are going to be facing the winner between Georgia and Spain. Here, I'm gonna check real quick who Switzerland might play.
the
Just
England and Slovakia.
it's between England and Slovakia.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, it looks
which
like it
plays
might.
tomorrow.
Okay. Well, actually, let's do that real quick. Should we give our prediction? Or should we shave it to the end?
Let's just give our prediction. Just, I mean,
Now, before we get into the predictions, actually, let me take a few steps back. I want to look at the surprises in the knockouts. Obviously, we saw Switzerland, Italy today, and we saw Denmark versus Germany. Tomorrow, we have the games such as England, Slovakia, Spain, Georgia. Then moving forward, France, Belgium, Portugal, Slovenia, Romania, Netherlands, and Austria versus Turkey. But right before we give our predictions, I just wanted to shout out these teams real quick because they are the surprises. They are the ones that made it through into the next round. And I mean, overall, they've just done an incredible job, I think, surprising everybody in this tournament. So, first team first, I want to go off with Georgia, a nation of 3.7 million in their first major tournament ever. But the fans have showed out, the players have showed, like I said, they're showing out. Now they're into the round of 16, and but I think what's most impressive is the way they got into the round of 16. Yes, they qualified as best third, but they beat Portugal 2-0. And it was a Portugal that, yeah, maybe started some of their subs, but they still had Ronaldo on the pitch. You still have good players on the pitch, Joao Felix, um, Antonio Silva, Ruben
Gonzalo
Diaz,
Ramos, come on.
Gonzalo Ramos was playing. Like they still had good players, but I mean, they just came out on top, and I think they're going to be a team to watch out for, especially since they're playing against Spain. But we all know that Spain is a very dominant force in this Euro. They, I think, are yet to concede, right? They won 3-0 against
3-0,
Croatia, 1-0 against
1-0,
Italia.
and
What was
then
the last- I believe they won 1-0 again with a goal from Ferran Torres against I forgot who, but I know they haven't gotten scored on. So defensively, they are very, very solid. But yeah, just ultimately just a big surprise from Georgia. And now they face Spain. Like I said, defensively very solid. They've been attacking very well. What are your predictions? You go first, and then I'm gonna go right after.
for Spain, Georgia, I feel like Spain is just too good of a team. I think Georgia, they showed what they had with Portugal, and they beat them 2-0, but they did go up pretty quick, and that really gave them the balance for Portugal to open up and attack. And I don't feel like Spain is a team that will allow a goal, especially early on in the game.
Yeah,
And even if they do, they're still a dominant force where if they pin you in your own goal, they're gonna score. And
unfortunately, I agree. For Georgia's sake, unfortunately, because they've been a wonder story ever since they even qualified to the tournament. Because this is, like I said, their first major tournament. But nonetheless, I think it's something to be proud of. I mean, to make it to this instance and to go out to one of the favorites of the tournament could be eventual winners as well in Spain and one of the best teams in the tournament in Spain. I think if you're a Georgian, you should be proud of your team for even getting to that instance because I know not a lot of people probably expected it.
yeah,
So for sure, I'm going Spain as well. I'm looking at a dominant performance from them, maybe like a 3-1.
I don't think like that. I think Georgians still have um the pride and the squad to at least keep it close, like 1-0, 2-1.
Okay. Now moving towards Slovakia, England, a matchup that I don't think a lot of people are excited for, given what Slovakia has shown us, given what England has shown us. Slovakia haven't scored many goals. I think they've drawn all their matches. And England, who are playing probably the most boring football of the tournament for being such a big nation, for being the creators, inventors of football, they just don't look like they're at full force. They don't look like they're awake pretty much at all in this tournament. Now, a Slovakia, in the third time in the knockouts of a major European competition, the last time they made it to the round of 16 was in 2016 when they made it to the round of 16. But they, oh, my bad. That was talking about Slovenia when I said they drew all their games. Slovakia actually caused one of the first big upsets of the tournament in beating Belgium. So
Yeah,
I remember a lot of people were talking about that on social media. So my bad about the confusion right there. But a game where England are heavily favorites, given the 11 that they have, even the substitutes that they can bring on. But it's very hard to tell because Slovakia can very well provide an upset if they wanted to.
yeah. I mean, just those teams in Central Europe and Eastern Europe, they're just so good defensively since they're so freaking huge and strong.
Mhm.
So obviously they play with it's just so hard to get to penetrate through them. And I don't see this England squad, at least if they don't change up their tactics, able to penetrate through them.
Yeah,
At least
I,
easily.
I agree with you, bro.
I mean, it's
Because
just
sorry,
the
go for
lack.
it. Go for
It's just the lack of everything that this team has, the lack of creativity, the lack of chances created, the lack of finishing, even in some instances, it's just terrible.
it.
I mean, how many goals did England score right now in this group stage?
One. I know the Harry Kane goal.
The Harry Kane goal, and then there's the
Then they
Harry
had
Kane goal, the Jude Bellingham goal.
1-0. They had, that's it. They have only scored 2 goals. Bellingham and Kane, the two probably best players in the whole squad.
Yeah, so I
I mean,
just
yeah, if they don't wake up, Slovakia, like I said, can very much surprise them if they're not on their toes, if they're not ready.
yeah, I mean for sure. Slovakia has shown that they're solid defensively. If they score on you, they will not like let you come through. They
Mhm.
just they're so defensively intact, and
I
most
think
most of these Eastern European countries are as well.
I can see it being a very tight game. I'm gonna predict a upset. I think this is gonna be one of the biggest upsets. I'm thinking Slovakia. I think they will replicate what they did against Belgium and beating them 1-0. I think they can defeat this England team because I don't think Gareth Southgate is gonna let up. I don't think he's gonna change anything. And I just want to see Slovakia go through. That way England can get rid of this manager and just have a complete new restructure that they need, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, for a coach that got his team to the previous Euro final, where he ended up losing on penalties, he hasn't shown that this tournament. He hasn't shown that they're the team that got to the final. He hasn't shown that they're this team that was able to find a stride in the last tournament. It's like they're so it's so terrible because why are you playing three right backs? Why are you doing so many things? Why is I mean finally, Cole Palmer and what was the other midfielder's name? I forgot how to pronounce it.
Kobe Mino?
Yeah.
Was it Mino, the one for Manchester, or which
Yeah,
one?
I know. It's like double O at the end.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Mino.
so like these players, one of the better youngsters, barely get minutes in this squad. And it's in an instance where he feels like he has to put them in. Not that he wants to put them in, but the pressure of the media is really asking for them.
Mhm.
Because if it were up to him, I mean, he'd be starting Trent Alexander and in as a right mid.
He'd probably be
Which is
starting Ramsdale and as striker or something too if he could.
he's for a team that for a national team that has the best league in the world, where obviously these players develop playing versus the best players in the world week in and week out. It doesn't look like it.
All
They
right,
look
for
like
sure.
they're on the level like of a French league right now.
No,
And
it's sad to see. That's why I'm predicting that upset. I think Slovakia can get it through. What do you use your prediction?
I think I think England get through just barely because in these Euros I've seen where we have seen some upsets, but I've also seen how at least in knockout instances how comparing the previous Euros and this Euros how those 50-50 calls usually go towards the bigger nation or the nation with more history in football.
Mhm.
So I feel like England is that, and since they are like the most marketable team for a final, I think they're gonna go through because of those 50-50 calls just going their way. Maybe even a penalty, maybe something even that
It's gonna
looks
take
bad.
individual. It's gonna take individual brilliance from somebody to penetrate through such a rigid system like the Slovakian
I
team
mean,
have.
if I'm Slovakia right now, I'm not scared of England's attack.
Yeah,
We
for
know
sure.
we know what we have to do defensively. If I'm thinking like a Slovakian center defensive mid or a Slovakian center back or even a midfielder in general, I'm thinking we already know what we have to do defensively. We have to do a little bit less than Belgium, and we're good because Belgium actually has creative midfielders. Yes, they didn't advance in the best form, but I mean KDB was creating chances. Lukaku was actually finishing some that were called offside. And now you play against the national team where yes they have big players but they don't have a creative midfielder like De Bruyne
Mhm.
that you have to constantly worry about. So it's
Now, on that note, let's look at France Belgium, one of the bigger matchups. What's your prediction right there?
I'm gonna go Belgium.
Okay, so France getting
I think
knocked out, one
France
of the
get
favorites
I
in the
think
tournament.
France get knocked out because at least in my eyes, the loss from Belgium to Slovakia was very how would I say
Eye opening.
not eye opening but very circumstantial. I
Hmm.
mean, a one goal was denied because the ball accidentally touches his hand, where it kind of affects play in his favor. So I see why why he took it off. And then the other one was Lukaku's offside, so they were able to finish some opportunities. It was just circumstantially against them, not in their favor at all. So they're able to create and score, and they were able to score as well in their second matchup. In their third matchup,
I think
I
the
mean it was a
floodgates
no
finally
no.
opened in that matchup. Was it when they beat Romania to a 3-0, or was that
Yeah,
the second?
they beat here I'll remind you right now. So
Because I
Belgium,
know they beat Romania like 2 or 3-0. Pretty sure it was 3-0, but I don't remember if that was match day 2 or match day 3.
no yeah, Romania was 2-0 on match day 2, and then they tied Ukraine 0-0
Ah, okay.
after losing to Slovakia 1-0.
Hmm.
So, I mean, versus Slovakia was very circumstantial because, like how I said, how the goals were disallowed. Versus Romania, they played a little bit with more of an edge, kind of like, oh, let's get these goals in. And then versus Ukraine, it was really just we advanced with the tie, so we're gonna let Ukraine attack us, and then we're gonna see what we could do on the counter, which led to the 50th minute no goal, the 60th minute no goal. Both teams playing semi patient.
Hmm.
70th minute no goal, 80th minute no goal, and then Belgium kind of like, oh, we're reaching the 90th minute. De Bruyne with his experience on Lukaku as well, just hold the ball up and keep the ball forward, far away from their goal, and let the clock run out because they know they advance with the draw, which is not the best way to win. I understand, but I mean, when you're at that level, do you really care how you advance? You
Yeah,
just
you just want to get to the next stage in general.
yeah. I mean, Belgium knew that.
A point in that game that really stood out, and I think would be kind of a wake up call as well for this Belgium team, is how they huddled up after the game with Kevin De Bruyne just yelling at his teammates, just gathering them together, acting like the captain that he is, and telling them that this is not okay. The way they performed is not okay. Now they're through. They have to wake up because they're going to be coming up with against the better teams in the tournament, and
Yeah,
they drew probably the most difficult one that probably I think nobody would want to face in France because we know that just in one switch they can turn it on if they really wanted to. They have been asleep this tournament. But I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna take Belgium over France just because offensively, I think Belgium has been a little bit more impressive versus France. I mean, compared to France, I don't know. Even though they have world class players like Mbappe, Griezmann, Giroud, Ousmane Dembele, they've all just
I mean,
looked like
even
they don't look like they're on it. They don't look like they're at the tournament. They look like they're ready to go to vacation because I'm
yeah,
sure. probably their bodies are just physically exhausted from the long seasons that they've all played.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even Turam, if you've seen him play these past games, he feels like he's an Ibiza or something. He's like not there at all.
Yeah, so Belgium, I think they can pull off the upset, knocking out one of the favorites of the tournament, and they'll finally start to wake up themselves because they have overall a good squad. Now, moving forward, we got Portugal versus Slovenia. Portugal, another favorite of the tournament. Slovenia, this is the team I meant to say that they were the ones that drew all their matches and were still able to get out of their group. They are the smallest nation in the Euro, and they made history by qualifying for the first time ever to the knockouts in any major tournament, drawing all their matches, drawing against England as well. But I mean, I'm sure they're not complaining. They're just happy to be in the instance that they're at. Now, when you're coming up against a Portugal team that have just world class players from top to bottom, I think it's very difficult for Slovenia to do any damage offensively. Maybe you can limit the damage that they do onto you, but I mean, when you have people that can break out of tight defenses and tight spaces, someone like Bernardo Silva, for example, Bruno Fernandes, Ronaldo's going to be waiting there in the box for any sort of tap in or header that he can get onto Rafael Leao. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for Slovenia to keep one goal out. Um, so I'm gonna go Portugal. I think it's pretty simple for me.
I'd have to agree with you, unless I mean Georgia already drew out kind of a pathway to beat Portugal. Get a first minute goal and then wait for those gaps to open and try to get a second one.
Hmm.
But I mean, I feel Portugal's gonna come out hungry. Especially after losing to Georgia 2-0. So they're gonna come out hungry, and they're probably gonna look for two, three quick goals as much as they can in the
Yeah,
first 15, 20 minutes. So
they're definitely gonna try to make a statement because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking like, "Oh shit!" Like they just lost to Georgia 2-0. They're in their eyes probably like we just lost to some nobodies. So, with all due respect to Georgia, but I'm sure that's probably what the Portuguese are thinking in their minds. They definitely did not give them the respect that Georgia deserved, and I'm sure they're not going to make that same mistake because you have such experienced players throughout that squad. So
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
some one of the commentators from Fox Sports put it in a perfect manner. It's a hurt lion versus a healthy gazelle right now. So
Mhm.
we'll see if the lion's able to recover itself, from losing to Georgia, or if the gazelle somehow wins out.
I mean, anything is possible as we already seen in the Euros, but yeah, I'm gonna take that prediction for me myself. Now, Romania versus Netherlands. Romania, another surprise in the tournament. They won their group in a group where they had Belgium, where they had Ukraine and Slovakia as well. They were on top against all odds because I know not a lot of people had them on top. So, like I said, they won the group for the first time ever. This is their first time in the knockouts since 2000. So that period in time from the 90s to early 2000s, they were led by George Hagi, one of the more iconic legends for Romania. And now it's pretty funny because now they have his son, Yanis Hagi. He plays at Alaves right now, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't say that he's leading the team. My bad, technical difficulties. But like I was saying, under Giannis Hagi, I mean, he's not the main leader of the squad. But overall, I think Romania is just a solid team. They have passion, they have grit. I think they're just happy to be in the instance that they're at. I think they're going to have a little bit more confidence moving forward. And after seeing what Austria did to the Netherlands, they're going to kind of try to copy that blueprint because Netherlands have not been impressive. If anything, they've been far from impressive this tournament. While they did get 2 goals past one of the dark horses, other tournament in Austria. I think just overall, this Netherlands teams are in shambles almost. So Romania are not a force to be taken lightly. I think they can very well surprise the Dutch if the Dutch overestimate them. So in this game, I'm gonna go with another upset. I think Romania takes the win. I don't know. I can't give you a scoreline. I don't think it was going to be an easy win for either team if Netherlands were to go through. But we're looking maybe at a 1-0 or even penalties.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd have to. I mean, actually, it's just so difficult because although Romania won their group, they advanced with 4 points.
Hmm.
The number one team in their group, which is them, had 4 points, and the fourth team in their group, which couldn't advance, had 4 points. So it's kind of, how would I say this? It's difficult to predict because they weren't Romania. I can't tell you that they were convincing at all. I mean, at the end of the day,
You
they
should
have
say
a
the same thing about the Netherlands, though.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. But Romania wins one, ties one, loses one. France wins one, ties one, loses one. It's just difficult to say. I mean, in history, Netherlands has been better, yes, and recently, at least for this year, they've been iffy. It's just hard to predict. I wouldn't pick a side. I think if I had to pick one, I would go Netherlands because I feel like that's the safest bet
Mhm.
because
All
they
right,
do
fair.
have more names, more individuals,
Hmm.
and they didn't play terrible versus
Austria.
yeah. I mean it was I'm talking about the Netherlands. Sorry, Netherlands didn't play terrible versus yeah, Austria. I mean Saboteur gets that goal obviously, which really hurts them. Ah, I would go Netherlands because offensively I think they are better than Romania, and I know that to some extent that really matters in matches like these.
Hmm.
It's because I see both scenarios. I see Romania winning and I see Netherlands winning. And I even see scenarios where it'd be like, oh yeah, of course Romania we're gonna win. Like, do you see the form that the Netherlands are in?
Hmm.
And I also see a scenario where people saying, oh yeah, of course the Netherlands win. Like, do you not know like the history of the Netherlands? Like they always come up on top versus smaller nations. So it's just so difficult. But if I had to go with somebody, I'd pick Netherlands because they are the safest bet.
All right. Now, lastly, I think probably the best game of these knockout stages so far, Austria Turkey. I think that one's going to be such a good matchup, just given the the names that both teams hold. Both of them are considered the dark horses, or at least a lot of people consider them dark horses. Now they face off in the round of 16. It's an early matchup. You would think this matchup could be maybe for a quarterfinal or a semifinal, but I mean, to get in the round of 16, we're blessed, honestly, because Austria have been playing amazing football under Ralph Ragnick. Turquia have been, I mean, I don't want to say they've lived up to their potential as a dark horse, but they haven't been horrible either. They've been pretty solid overall. I mean, they just scraped by Czechia. They lost pretty bad to Portugal, and then they got that
What
consistent win against Georgia.
Georgia?
And Austria, while they did lose that first game against France, I mean, it's France. And if anything, France did not deserve that win.
Yeah,
But you saw what they did against the Netherlands and what they were able to do against who else was in their group? I know they won that game, but I forgot who else was in their group. Let me check real quick.
it was. Yeah, give me a second. So their group was Austria, France, Netherlands, and Poland.
Poland. Poland. I think they draw with them or they tied or they won 2-1.
They won. They beat Poland and they beat Netherlands and lost to France.
Okay. So yeah, overall I think Austria is just a little stronger. I'm gonna take Austria on this one, but wouldn't be surprised if Turkey can provide an upset in this instance. But I think Austria coming off of that big win against the Netherlands, they really showed the European people and most of the world what they are capable of. They have a strong squad. I'm gonna go Austria wins probably like a 2-1.
I'm gonna say Austria as well, and I'm actually gonna say that it's gonna be a clear win because defensively they're strong, and offensively they create opportunities. Maybe their nine isn't the best finisher, but their midfielder makes up for it.
Mhm.
Especially having Sabic in their midfield, which for me is one of the best midfielders in the world right now. So I would say it's a little bit clear. I'd say 2-0, maybe even 3-1.
All right. Well, that kind of wraps up all the predictions for the coming games for the Euros right now. Let us know your guys' prediction as well in the comments down below. And yeah, I mean, like I said, there was a lot of surprises this Euros. A lot of teams that have not seen the Euro knockout stages or haven't been here in quite some time. So maybe we can see more moving forward, just like we saw today with Switzerland versus Italy. I mean, what a match! But yeah, make sure you guys tune into the podcast, tune into the Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Follow us on social media. Follow our personals as well, and support your small creators because together we make it big. I know the is growing quite decently right now. The goal is to hit 1K by the end of the international tournaments. So we're on that road to 1K. So if you guys are listening, please follow on Instagram. Please check us out. And yeah, I mean, we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you, Thomas, for always helping me out. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.
See you.